think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, welcome.
Is on now.
Welcome. It's Friday morning. You've made it. It's the beginning of the week, and you found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here. Thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, you've made it to the beginning of the week. You want to know why, or the end of the week, you want to know why it is a good idea to continue to talk and report and discuss what is obviously, at the very least, the appearance of impropriety, corruption. You know why it's a good idea to talk, to ask questions of our elected leaders? Because eventually you're going to ask a question, and they're going to basically turn into Joe Biden and challenge you to an IQ test, a push-up contest, and call you fat. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happened. You see, the rest of the country knows that it's not right what Hunter Biden did, what Joe Biden did. They know it's not right. They know it's, at the very least, ethical or unethical, raises ethical questions. And so you have this guy who decides at an Iowa event to question Joe Biden, to ask him about his son getting on the board of this energy company, Burisma, without any experience. And what happens? Well, Joe Biden doesn't like what the man says and calls him a damn liar? Yeah. And it kind of goes on from there. Then he calls the guy fat, and then the campaign comes out and says, no, he didn't say he was fat. Joe, go ahead and play this. Go ahead and listen to this. This is an exchange between Joe Biden and a voter in Iowa. Listen.
I got a question I want you to answer. We all know Trump has been messing around in Ukraine over there, holding their foreign aid for them to come out saying they're going to investigate you. We don't want to know that. He's no back what we need to answer that. But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience in class or nothing, in order to get access to the public, for the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he is. So
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that? No one has proved that?
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on it, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test.
Stop.
Number two.
What a sociopath. You know what I mean? This is kind of goes into what I was saying about these people on the left that like Michael Bloomberg that want to control, the amount of soda that you have and that sort of thing. And then Michael Bloomberg saying that his push to take away your Second Amendment rights is actually going to get him into heaven. He said that back in 2014. I'm trying to get into the psyche of people that think they really are the ones that are going to make decisions, and rule over people, and the ones that think that they are qualified to make these giant decisions and take away, freedom of choice or, build a choice architecture, whatever. Joe Biden here kind of takes it to a whole nother level. He's challenged, and he's looking at this guy, and he's so prejudiced, all he can see is that this guy is bigger than he is, or overweight, or whatever you want to say. And so in order to argue from a position of authority, looks at this guy, instead of addressing the issue, challenges him to a push-up contest. I mean, that's like, it's like just, it's just looking, it's sizing somebody up and immediately thinking that you're better than them and wanting them to know that you think that you're. It's a sociopath. All right, go ahead. Keep going. This is more of Joe Biden with his voter in Iowa.
No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't
one.
say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company.
Well,
You
yeah.
know what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that on MSNBC. You did not hear that at all. What you heard, look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, fat, look, here's the deal.
Look, fat.
Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have any more backbone in your Trump.
Now I can't really make out what he said there at the end. Stop. I think he said you don't have any more backbone than Trump does, or something like that, and that's what made everybody mad. But he clearly. So then there was this mad race by the campaign to make sure you know that Joe Biden did not use the word fat, and that's kind of the most hilarious part of this whole story. To be clear, any assertion Vice President Biden said a word about the gentleman's appearance in making this something it is not, is making this something that it's not. In the latter part of the exchange, the VP began to say, look, facts, then said, here's the deal. If you've been to a Biden event, you've heard this before. Of course, Trump's deputy director of communications replying, this is a lie. It's on video. Biden said fat, not facts. Yeah, I think he did say fat and meant fat, based on the fact that based on the fact that he challenged the guy to an IQ test and a push-up contest earlier in the exchange, which had nothing to do with the issue at hand, which is his corruption, which is his son benefiting from his position as vice president, where we now know $80,000 a month. Did you hear that in the paternity case? Meaning you have London, or what's her name? Last name is London. That's the mama, or the mother, I should say, of Hunter Biden's child. And the judge has now ruled that he's gonna treat this like any other case, and he's demanding that Hunter Biden turn over 5 years of financial information, which you would assume, is that FOIA-able at that point? I don't know. It's going to be at this point, a child support case. The paternity has now been decided, right? Hunter Biden, you are the father. So that's an interesting twist to all of this. Interesting Arkansas connection. Also, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette reported earlier this week that the attorneys here in Arkansas representing Hunter Biden have bailed out on the case. That was former Attorney General Dustin McDaniel was representing Hunter Biden because they used to be attorney generals together back when Hunter Biden was the Attorney General of Delaware. And you can't really get any more interesting when you dive into Dustin McDaniel's past. That's been so well reported on the headlines in the state of Arkansas over the years, or in the headlines. Telephone number 870-275-9799. So what we're watching in the media, and this goes for Arkansas and the federal government as well, the federal news as well, we have a protection of power. That's what's going on right now. The deep state wants to protect their power. People in elected office want to protect their power. I make that distinction because people in the deep state are not elected, they are unelected. You're protected by the media. You're protected by political parties. This is going on all across our country. It's going on right here in Arkansas. And it has got to stop. And that's why we've got to continue asking the right questions, because you're eventually going to get a response like this. This question needs to be asked at every public event that Governor Asa Hutchinson's at, considering his son and what's going on with China. By the way, yeah, I saw John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, finally wrote, like he said he was going to on Talk Business like 3 weeks ago. John Brummett finally wrote an article about Asa and his sons. Or, I'm sorry, Asa and his son. And you know what he did with it? He used it very much like I predicted. He used it to defend Hunter and Joe Biden. Saying that, yeah, it doesn't look good, but nothing, it's just what Hunter and Joe Biden are being accused of, and they didn't do anything illegal, and so Republicans in Washington, D.C. Now, he basically said Republicans in Washington, D.C. If you're going to criticize Hunter Biden's the way you're doing, Joe Biden the way that you're doing, then you've got to also criticize Asa Hutchinson equally, blah, 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 blah. We'll get to that piece later on in the show. I don't know, man. It's like you were, I guess Brummett maybe was, felt forced to write about it because everybody was talking about it the way they are. I mean, politicians are talking about it like crazy. I don't know who forced him to do it. Maybe it was himself, because he said on Roe v. Brock, he said, people should be paying more attention to this. I haven't written about it, though, and 3 weeks later, he finally wrote about it. But used it in a way. And, of course, he did. I mean, John Brummett's a big progressive liberal. That's who he is. So, I mean, what we should be saying is, I said this weeks ago. I mean, thanks a lot, Asa. I mean, leave it to somebody who is deep in the Republican Party and has been forever and is part of that apparatus. Asa was in Washington, D.C. for a very long time. Leave it to him to give the Democrats cover when it comes to what Hunter Biden and Joe Biden did. I was talking to a Arkansas Politico, and this person was talking about how, what's going on with Asa and his son. Everything was probably all legal. It was probably all technically legal. And I said, okay, all right. I mean, maybe it was. I said, but doesn't it remind you of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden? This person responded back and said, yeah, it does, but I think what Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were doing was illegal. Oh, really? Exact same thing. I was just like, okay, all right, well, I mean, I connected the dots for him. I was like, if that was illegal, then what's, you tell me what's going on here. Wow. Nancy Pelosi also, another reason we need to ask tough questions. James Rosen, who was spied on by the Obama administration, now works for Sinclair Media. James Rosen, he was working for Fox News for a while, decided to ask Nancy Pelosi whether or not this whole impeachment thing that they're now going to go through with. By the way, on the impeachment thing, I just want you to consider one thing, and I know no one's going to tell you this. Or I know this is going to be hard to believe. Maybe other people will say this. Is it possible that when the impeachment trial in the Senate is concluded, we may look back and say things like, you know what? Donald Trump wasn't on trial at all. That Senate impeachment hearing was used to try the Democrat Party. Just a thought I had. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Joe, here it is. Nancy Pelosi being asked if she hates the president, and the virtue signaling just went up 150%. Listen to this.
Do you hate the president, Madam Speaker? Because
I don't hate anybody.
Representative Collins, reason I asked.
We don't hate anybody, not anybody in the world. So don't accuse me.
I did not accuse you.
You did.
I asked a question.
You did. And
Representative Collins yesterday suggested that the Democrats are doing this simply because they don't like the
I
guy.
have nothing to do with it. Let me just say this.
I think it's an important
I
point.
think the president is a coward when it comes to helping our kids who are afraid of gun violence. I think he is cruel when he doesn't deal
Boy,
with
look at the-
helping our
Stop
dreamers.
for a second. Will you pause
of
this?
which we're very proud. I think he's in denial.
I want you to look at the gap in between her eyebrows there. That is some sort of, I mean, that looks like a clown. Yeah, be mad at me all you want. But that is a massive gap in between her eyebrows. Oh, really? You thought I was going, what? No, her hand gestures are bad, but I'm just saying, do you see the angle there? Do you see the angle of the arch of those eyebrows? I'm sorry. Continue. I shouldn't have said that. That was mean, but it just... You thought that
Denial
was mean.
about the Constitution, about the climate crisis. However, that's about the election.
Good
This is
grief.
about the elect. Take it up in the election. This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love, and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
Okay. All of that, when all she was asked was, do you hate the president? Because that's what Congressman Doug Collins said this was all about, that you just don't like the president, and so that's why you're doing all of this, because the facts are not on the Democrat side for this to be an impeachable offense. I was listening to Mark Levin last night, and he was absolutely incredible. He went down a list, and he's always incredible, but he went down a list of all of the things presidents have done. You know what I mean? All the different things that presidents have done that didn't get impeached. And he kept bringing it back to, was that worse than the president's phone call? For example, when now he did a long history, like when FDR put Japanese Americans in internment camps, when FDR took their land, right? When he confiscated and put Japanese Americans in internment camps, was that worse than the president's phone call? And he went all the way. When Woodrow Wilson, he said, desegregated the military because he was a racist, resegregated the military because he was a racist. Was that worse than the president's phone call? There was no impeachment over that. And then he went all the way up to Obama, who said, when Obama used the IRS to target conservative groups who were trying to file as tax-exempt organizations, specifically targeted them with the IRS, was that worse than the president's phone call? And you realize really quickly what he was doing. It was a genius thing to do. Absolutely genius. Speaking of genius, well, maybe we'll get to that when we come back. We've got a lot to get to. We got State Representative Dan Sullivan coming up at 7:30, and it's Johnny Cash Friday. For those of you listening on radio, enjoy it. We'll be back in just a moment. Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government approach, using political, economic, and military tools, as well as propaganda, to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States.
And I have wanted to welcome back to Arkansas Chairman Chu. Please give Chairman Chu a round of applause.
China is also applying this power in more proactive ways than ever before to exert influence and interfere in the domestic policy and politics of this country.
Chairman Chu, I got to know as he is the CEO and chairman of Shandong Ruyi Technology Group out of Shandong Province.
Over the past 17 years, China's GDP has grown ninefold. It's become the second largest economy in the world. Much of this success was driven by American investment in China. And the Chinese Communist Party has also used an arsenal of policies inconsistent with free and fair trade, including tariffs, quotas, currency manipulation, forced technology transfer, intellectual property theft, and industrial subsidies that are handed out like candy to foreign investment.
We've been to Shandong Province a number of times since I've been governor. We've called on people, and Chairman Chu gave us the opportunity to meet with him at Ruyi, at their technology group there in Shandong, and saw his incredible facility. We asked him to visit Arkansas. He did. So Chairman Chu, we're delighted to have you here. I'm excited about signing this agreement with you, and I welcome you to Arkansas.
These policies have built Beijing's manufacturing base at the expense of its competitors, especially the United States of America.
And I wanted to recognize Chairman Li to my right, who is the founder of Sun Paper of Shandong Province in China. I also want to recognize Secretary Ma of Shandong Province.
As President Trump said just this week, in his words, we rebuilt China over the last 25 years.
Last November, as you know, I traveled to Shandong Province. I met with Chairman Li. I toured Sun Paper Company along with Mike Preston. While in China, we signed a letter of intent on behalf of the state of Arkansas with Sun Paper, indicating that Sun Paper wanted to put a major bioproducts mill in South Arkansas, in Arkansas.
The Communist Party has set its sights on controlling 90% of the world's most advanced industries, including robotics, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. To win the commanding heights of the 21st century economy, Beijing has directed its bureaucrats and businesses to obtain American intellectual property, the foundation of our economic leadership, by any means necessary.
Chairman Li and I met yesterday. Chairman Li indicated to me that Sun Paper has selected Arkadelphia in Clark County as the location of a $1 billion bioproducts mill.
Beijing now requires many American businesses to hand over their trade secrets as the cost of doing business in China. It also coordinates and sponsors the acquisition of American firms to gain ownership of their creations. Worst of all, Chinese security agencies have masterminded the wholesale theft of American technology, including cutting-edge military blueprints. And using that stolen technology, the Chinese Communist Party is turning plowshares into swords on a massive scale.
Well, thank you all for joining us via Skype from Beijing this morning. Here in Beijing, it is 10 p.m. in the evening. I've had a very successful trip to China.
China now spends as much on its military as the rest of Asia combined. And Beijing has prioritized capabilities to erode America's military advantages on land, at sea, in the air, and in space.
I've spoken at Tsinghua University here in Beijing, which was a treat for me to speak with young Chinese students about Arkansas, and also to talk about the relationship between China and the United States.
China wants nothing less than to push the United States of America from the Western Pacific and attempt to prevent us from coming to the aid of our allies. But they will fail. Beijing is also using its power like never before. Chinese ships routinely patrol around the Senkaku Islands, which are administered by Japan. And while China's leader stood in the Rose Garden at the White House in 2015 and said that his country had, and I quote, no intention to militarize the South China Sea. Today, Beijing has deployed advanced anti-ship and anti-air missiles atop an archipelago of military bases constructed on artificial islands. China's aggression was on display this week when a Chinese naval vessel came within 45 yards of the USS Decatur as it conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, forcing our ship to quickly maneuver to avoid collision. Despite such reckless harassment, the United States Navy will continue to fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows and our national interests demand. We will not be intimidated, and we will not stand down.
And we'll be calling on multiple prospects in China, as well as continuing our relationship with Sun Paper in Shandong Province.
In recent years, China has taken a sharp U-turn toward control and oppression of its own people. Today, China has built an unparalleled surveillance state, and it's growing more expansive and intrusive, often with the help of U.S. technology. And when it comes to religious freedom, a new wave of persecution is crashing down on Chinese Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims. Last month, Beijing shut down one of China's largest underground churches. Across the country, authorities are tearing down crosses, burning Bibles, and imprisoning believers. And Beijing has now reached a deal with the Vatican that gives the avowedly atheist Communist Party a direct role in appointing Catholic bishops. For China's Christians, these are desperate times.
So, do you like him as a candidate?
I think he's brought a lot to the table. It's not my message. You know, I worry about the party in terms of expanding our base and what the message does to our recruitment of Hispanics, outreach to minorities. And so you've got to worry about the fall election and whether this is a message that's going to carry in Michigan, Ohio, and Florida, and those states that we need to carry.
The American people deserve to know. In response to the strong stand that President Trump has taken...
Sorry, ran into a hard break there and couldn't really avoid it. 870-275-9799 telephone number if you want to contribute to the conversation this morning. All right. Can we get into real quick? I can't leave this stone unturned. Nancy Pelosi yesterday. Don't use the word hate with me. I'm a Catholic. I pray for the president, and she gets asked one question. Hey, you hate the guy, and then she just loses it. In my opinion, I mean, her reaction did not. It was definitely an overreaction. And, I mean, is it possible she prays for the president? I guess. Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I used to pray for Barack Obama. I did. And I said I used to get really fired up about his policies. I believe he is and was a Marxist. But I did pray for him. And, anyway, so maybe she does pray for the president. But I really have to say this. I know she says, she's asked, do you hate the guy? Is that why you're impeaching him? And her first response is, he's not. He actually is a coward, and he's not doing enough on gun control. She was like, but all of that is policy. All of that is going to be election stuff. This is about the Constitution of the United States. Now, I just think I don't believe her there. I don't think this is not about the Constitution of the United States for the Democrats. They don't care about the Constitution of the United States. They only care about it when it's politically convenient for them.
It is the Constitution. He's upholding
And
it.
that's a good point. Joe says maybe it is about the Constitution. Maybe he's actually upholding it, or maybe he's appointing Supreme Court justices that will actually uphold it or do a lot better than what we've been doing with it. In many ways, it's a meaningless document at this point, in terms of what we're at, how we actually treat the document. But I don't really believe that. I think it's the complete opposite. Just like I believe most of the time I believe 180 degrees of whatever I'm being told by the media. Somebody made an interesting point the other day. They said, there are conservatives that criticize Fox News and their coverage, and there are many people that think Fox News is kind of losing it. But the people who listen to CNN, do they ever criticize CNN? Meaning the leftists or they just believe everything they're being told, and the left calls Donald Trump supporters cultists? Doesn't make any sense. I actually do believe, like many of you out there, the reason they're impeaching this man is because they hate him. The reason they're impeaching this man is because he hasn't done enough on gun control. Is because he doesn't, agree with them on taxes. He does, he's actually trying to stop illegal immigration. Mark on our Facebook channel or our Facebook page, which you can watch the program over at facebook.com/Conduit News. He said this. I think it was towards the beginning of the show, though, so I'm having to back way up to find it. But he was specifically talking about the Senate trial. Mark says, quote, "The Senate trial will allow us to open up the deep state in public testimony." I'm telling you, hindsight, my prediction is that if they do this, if they bring this to trial, which technically the Republican Senate doesn't have to do. The Republican Senate could just dismiss this and say, you don't have any evidence. The fact that I feel like Donald Trump wants a trial is twofold. Number one, President Trump, this is the greatest accomplishment that he's ever achieved, being president of the United States. And the Democrats, the left, the deep state, the globalists have been claiming that he's a crook and he used Russia to help him get elected. They're trying to diminish and take away the man's greatest achievement, which is becoming president of the United States. And personally, I don't believe President Trump's going to let that go until he has proven that that's just not the case. That you may not like him, but he was legitimately elected, which he was. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, in hindsight, we really may look back on this and say, Donald Trump wasn't on trial. The Democrat Party was on trial. Because, now this is assuming that the Republicans actually use the power they have in the Senate. And I think they will. In order for them to actually impeach the president, you'd have to have 20 Republicans defect, and that assumes all the Democrats are going to vote for impeachment, which they are. All the Democrats are going to vote for impeachment, you would think. Dennis says, yes, Paul, CNN audience is being told what they want to hear. They agree with all of it. I would agree with that. But you know what? Here's the last thing I have to say about Nancy Pelosi. People think that Nancy Pelosi's crazy. And on Twitter, well, this is how I found it. Dan Scavino said, quote, Nancy Pelosi is crazy. And then the Twitter account Something Wicked posted this video. Today we salute you, Madam 80 Proof House Speaker. And it sounds like this.
Donald Trump presents Real Stable Genius.
Real Stable Genius.
Today we salute you, Madam 80-proof House Speaker.
Madam 80-proof House Speaker.
Without your undying leadership and occasional sobriety, Democrats would still be huffing the fumes of butthurt from 2016.
Bye-bye, Hillary.
Snotty freshman congressmen need guidance, restraint, talking points. Not yours. Your squad says whatever dumb, racist thing comes into their heads.
LC plus 3.
Sure you drink, but you also lead and fight. And you fight and lead more than you drink. But you probably do drink.
Oh, yeah!
So crack open a nice scotch on the rocks, Madam Speaker of the House. And pop a few Geritons, too. Because there'll be no silver alerts on your watch.
Madam 80-proof House Speaker.
Donald Trump, President forever, Washington, D.C.
You hear the hiccup at the end? Yeah, that's pretty funny. Which you probably drink. You probably drink. Well, I mean, you know, we have the flight logs, the receipts when she was Speaker of the House the last time. You know, we've got the alcohol bill. You can look that up. It was a pretty hefty bar tab when the wheels were up on what do they call the plane the Speaker rides around in? I don't know. All right, so let's move on. So John Brummett finally has written about Asa Hutchinson and his son and China. I'm just going to go line by line. It is what it is. Republicans in Washington who want to investigate the Bidens for corruption ought to investigate the Hutchinsons of Arkansas as well. It's all the same. Okay, all right, okay. Let me hasten to explain what I mean by all the same. Oh, okay. It's all the same. Mm-hmm. It's that both the sons, Hunter Biden and Asa Hutchinson III, have invited suspicions of cashing in on the high political positions of their dads. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Governor Asa Hutchinson. Both sons are entitled to make whatever money they can make within the law, and both these cases are fully within the law. It's hard to hamstring one's private economic opportunities on the basis of a relative's public trust. I think that's exactly what Asa Hutchinson has been saying to the media. Don't you? Basically, it's what I've been saying, that's how they justify this. Well, we got to make a living. Oh, actually, I've said how they justify it really is. Well, we're doing economic development here. We're giving the serfs these Chinese jobs, so we got to make a little on the side, you know? It's a win-win. Both sons are entitled to make whatever money they can within the law, and both these cases are fully within the law. So that's what it means by all the same, that there's nothing to see here. By the way, if you're keeping a tally for how many times the liberal progressive columnist John Brummett either praises Asa Hutchinson's Republican leadership, quote, Republic, or defends him, this would be another one time to mark off on that list. This is another article that's essentially defending. You know, you'd think if we were actually implementing Republican Party platform issues, John Brummett would be screaming about it every single day. He'd be a very unhappy guy because he's a liberal. But John Brummett is not that unhappy because we're not moving the needle. I digress. John Brummett, quote, neither father did anything remotely corrupt. Though both can be rightfully blamed for not drawing clear ethical lines between themselves and their son's activities. The dad, Asa, is listed as an attorney on the website. Or, I'm sorry, he was. That didn't make it into the Talk Business piece. You're only going to hear that here because we're the ones that broke the story, John. I know you don't say that. You say it was the Arkansas Times. Then you say it was KTV. No, we're the ones that covered the story first. We're the ones that broke the story. And you know what? It is what it is. I don't expect you to acknowledge that that's what we did because you don't want anybody to know that I think people will know very soon that there's a competing news source, but that's a different announcement for another day. But yeah, we broke the story, and this is not in your piece, by the way. Okay? You report on what the website says now, not what the website said 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or whenever they changed it. I'm not exactly sure when it was changed. I just know it was changed because Asa was listed as an attorney. Now he's just listed on the secondary page as the founder, and then they added Asa Hutchinson has no financial interest. Anyway, let's see here. Vice President, neither father did anything wrong. Okay, vice presidents and governors ought to steer diligently clear of appearances that would raise reasonable suspicion. You can love your son while keeping your public duties wholly divorced from his private ones. Republicans in Washington are wildly overstating Joe Biden's wrongdoing. This article's not going to age well, John Brummett. I'm just telling you right now. Republicans are not wildly overstating Joe Biden's wrongdoing. While Asa Hutchinson has been gliding along without even much of a mention of strikingly similar circumstances in Arkansas. Well, nobody... There hasn't been the media coverage that is... This is hilarious to me. John, it's because your own paper won't write about it. Republicans in Washington aren't talking about it because the Associated Press won't write about it. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette won't write about it up until this. And you're a columnist. We need like a Wickline piece or something. Or Arkansas Business. See, that's this whole... I got a feeling, I know for a fact, Republicans all across this state and beyond are very worried and concerned about Asa Hutchinson and his son and the Chinese communist entities doing business with the governor's law firm, and they're the same communist entities that have gotten taxpayer dollars. Now, do I think these Republican politicians need to come out of the woodwork and not be afraid of getting a primary opponent because filing has closed? Yeah, I do. I think they should all come out across the state of Arkansas and start making public statements to the press about how stupid this is and how we're losing the trust of the Arkansas voter because of this scandal. So yeah, I mean, I can partially agree, but anyway, I don't think that's the point of this piece, though, is it? Brummett writes, the Arkansas Times blog made the first mention of Asa Hutchinson III's law firm getting work from Chinese firms located in Arkansas with tax incentives granted by Hutchinson's administration. Talk Business and Politics collaborated with KATV Channel 7, interviewed the governor and his son for a substantive takeout Tuesday. By the way, we had a statement from the governor's office first. I just want everybody to know that. There's been the extent of news coverage inconvenience for Hutchinson. That's been the extent of news coverage inconvenience for the Hutchinsons, even as the Biden-Hutchinson parallels are remarkable. I do like that phrase, though, John. The Biden-Hutchinson parallels. He mentions the paternity controversy, talks about the gas company. While Asa Hutchinson has been governor, he writes, Asa III has landed legal work, visa work mostly, for 3 Chinese firms choosing during his dad's governorship to locate in Arkansas. That's just a coincidence. Is that a coincidence? Do you believe that's a coincidence? Do the journalists at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette believe that's a coincidence? Then, when Dad took the recent trade mission to China, Asa III paid his own way to call on clients and tag along with, though not as part of the official party. While Asa Hutchinson has been governor, his son has landed legal work in the governor's law firm for 3 Chinese firms choosing during his dad's governorship to locate in Arkansas. Also, and I think this is very relevant, the most interesting part of the Talk Business piece where they did interview the governor, is that he said he does not anticipate returning to the law firm after he leaves office, because the law firm is growing, getting international clients, or more and more international clients. It's becoming sort of like a Clinton Foundation, in my opinion, or something like it. It's not quite, but I mean, it's just an international lobbying firm where they brag about how the founder of the firm is now governor and politically connected. And if you think that that's not benefiting the law firm and growing, but I don't anticipate. I've divested in it. I'm not gonna. I'm not making any money off it now. Will you make money on it in the future? Well, I don't anticipate that. Well, Barack Obama didn't anticipate running for president in 2006, did he? Yeah. In China, Asa III got his picture taken with his dad and several Chinese officials and posted the photograph. Okay, yeah, we know this story. I am thankful. I mean, even though I disagree with John Brummett's point of view and giving him a hard time, at least it made the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I mean, at least it's in his column. At least there are people, I guess, I would imagine most of John Brummett's, readers that open the Democrat-Gazette and can't wait to read his column. I mean, if that person exists, they're probably progressive leftists. So at least there's people on the progressive left that are doing this, that are reading this for the first time. I'll tell you something else. Maybe the Arkansas Democrat Party will finally criticize Asa Hutchinson over this scandal. That's another thing that's remarkable here. The silence from the Arkansas Democrat Party that needs a win right now because they can't even get somebody to challenge, just be a placeholder to challenge Tom Cotton. I mean, the Democrat Party needs a win so bad right now in the state of Arkansas because they're not going to have a candidate on the ballot to challenge Tom Cotton because they screwed it up. You would think they would want to get a win and they would start attacking the Republican governor of Arkansas, but they don't because they love him. The Democrats love a Republican governor. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild? Just makes you think the whole thing's theater, doesn't it? I mean, it's just nuts. Joe Biden as vice president, John Brummett writes, accepted then-President Obama's assignment to engage in special emissary work in Ukraine. In the course of that assignment, Biden publicly told Ukrainian leaders of the broadly held official and bipartisan American position that a certain prosecutor was corrupt and had to be ousted before aid would be forthcoming. Biden instead should have said, Barack, I can't take that assignment because Hunter is over there in Ukraine on some kind of gas company deal, and it would look bad if I carried that message. Yeah, he didn't say that. John, you realize Joe Biden's on tape saying, I fired the prosecutor, you're not getting the $1 billion? The prosecutor was looking into his son, John. Good grief. The absence of facts, the absence of John Brummett acknowledging how bad the Bidens are and what they've done in their official position. I mean, if he can't understand that what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden did was possibly illegal, then I'm not going to necessarily trust his opinion now that he's absolving Asa and his son doing what they're doing. Anyway, we'll see what happens with all of this stuff. Will there be more media outlets cover this? Will there be Democrats come out? Will there be Republicans come out and publicly start to say, this doesn't look right? Because it calls into question the entire tenure of the governor's economic development agenda, which has really been Chinese focused. I mean, there's been a few other businesses that are not Chinese, but it's really been laser focused on China. Why China? Well, there's a law firm with, it's got your name on it that you say your son's running, and they're the same companies that we're giving our taxpayer dollars to. It's a scandal. There's any way you shake it. And if Asa Hutchinson was an actual conservative, meaning if he had actually lowered the net tax burden, not just cut around the edges, if he was actually controlling spending, if Asa Hutchinson had actually shrunk the size of government or just kept it the same size, John Brummett would be all over this story and would be calling for Asa's resignation. Make no mistake about it. If Asa were conservative, John Brummett would be calling for his resignation right now. We will see you on the other side of the break.
Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government approach, using political, economic, and military tools as well as propaganda to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States.
And I have wanted to welcome back to Arkansas Chairman Chu. Please give Chairman Chu a round of applause.
China is also applying this power in more proactive ways than ever before to exert influence and interfere in the domestic policy and politics of this country.
Chairman Chu, I got to know as he is the CEO and chairman of Shandong Ruyi Technology Group out of Shandong Province.
Over the past 17 years, China's GDP has grown ninefold. It's become the second largest economy in the world. Much of this success was driven by American investment in China. And the Chinese Communist Party has also used an arsenal of policies inconsistent with free and fair trade, including tariffs, quotas, currency manipulation, forced technology transfer, intellectual property theft, and industrial subsidies that are handed out like candy to foreign investment.
We've been to Shandong Province a number of times since I've been governor. We've called on people, and Chairman Chu gave us the opportunity to meet with him at Ruyi, at their technology group there in Shandong, and saw his incredible facility. We asked him to visit Arkansas. He did. So Chairman Chu, we're delighted to have you here. I'm excited about signing this agreement with you, and I welcome you to Arkansas.
These policies have built Beijing's manufacturing base at the expense of its competitors, especially the United States of America.
And I wanted to recognize Chairman Lee to my right, who is the founder of Sun Paper of Shandong Province in China. I also want to recognize Secretary Ma of Shandong Province.
As President Trump said just this week, in his words, we rebuilt China.
All right, here we go. We've got 1 hour down. We're going to have one more hour coming your way next. State Representative Dan Sullivan will be with us coming up at 7:33. I've got some big news to get to. ABC News reporting late yesterday evening, ABC News, the prosecutor prosecuting the murder of Linda Collins, Senator Linda Collins. The prosecutor has been asked to be removed from the case 6 months after they've charged her with
Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
Over the last 25 years.
Last November, as you know, I traveled to Shandong province. I met with Chairman Lee. I toured Sun Paper Company along with Mike Preston. While in China, we signed a letter of intent on behalf of the state of Arkansas with Sun Paper, indicating that Sun Paper wanted to put a major bioproducts mill in South Arkansas,
The Communist Party has set its sights on controlling 90% of the world's most advanced industries, including robotics, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. To win the commanding heights of the 21st century economy, Beijing has directed its bureaucrats and businesses to obtain American intellectual property, the foundation of our economic leadership, by any means necessary.
Chairman Lee and I met yesterday. Chairman Lee indicated to me that Sun Paper has selected Arkadelphia in Clark County as the location of a $1 billion bioproducts mill.
Beijing now requires many American businesses to hand over their trade secrets as the cost of doing business in China. It also coordinates and sponsors the acquisition of American firms to gain ownership of their creations. Worst of all, Chinese security agencies have masterminded the wholesale theft of American technology, including cutting-edge military blueprints. And using that stolen technology, the Chinese Communist Party is turning plowshares into swords on a massive scale.
Well, thank you all for joining us via Skype from Beijing this morning. Here in Beijing, it is 10 p.m. in the evening. I've had a very successful trip to China.
China now spends as much on its military as the rest of Asia combined. And Beijing has prioritized capabilities to erode America's military advantages on land, at sea, in the air, and in space.
I've spoken at Tsinghua University here in Beijing, which was a treat for me to speak with young Chinese students about Arkansas, and also to talk about the relationship between China and the United States.
China wants nothing less than to push the United States of America from the Western Pacific and attempt to prevent us from coming to the aid of our allies. But they will fail. Beijing is also using its power like never before. Chinese ships routinely patrol around the Senkaku Islands, which are administered by Japan. And while China's leader stood in the Rose Garden at the White House in 2015 and said that his country had, and I quote, no intention to militarize the South China Sea. Today, Beijing has deployed advanced anti-ship and anti-air missiles atop an archipelago of military bases constructed on artificial islands. China's aggression was on display this week when a Chinese naval vessel came within 45 yards of the USS Decatur as it conducted freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, forcing our ship to quickly maneuver to avoid collision. Despite such reckless harassment, the United States Navy will continue to fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows.
think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Wow. Welcome to the program. Hour number 2 on this Johnny Cash Friday. Thank you so much for being with us, broadcasting on stations across the state, as well as online, and more online here in just a moment. I got cut off at the end of that hour because I wasn't paying attention to the clock, so you have to forgive me. This headline from ABC News posted last night, Josh Margolin. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, at Paul Harrell 1776, you saw that I retweeted this tweet by ABC News reporter Josh Margolin yesterday, and he broke the news that the prosecutor, Henry Boyce, who's prosecuting Becky O'Donnell for the murder of Senator Linda Collins, he asked the judge to walk away from the case. The judge granted his request. Headline, prosecutor drops out of case involving murdered Arkansas State Senator Linda Collins without explanation. The prosecutor exited the case against Rebecca O'Donnell. What was strange has gotten stranger, ABC News writes, in a high-profile murder case in northeastern Arkansas. Without warning or explanation, the attorney prosecuting the death penalty case, the death penalty of the woman accused of killing former state Senator Linda Collins, dropped out of the proceeding altogether this week. Will you throw this article up there? I want people to see this. The figures in the national media are paying more attention to this than the state media is. The unexpected move comes a week after the judge in the case asked the state Supreme Court to replace him. 2 weeks ago, the accused, Rebecca Lynn O'Donnell, was placed under strict jail segregation without legal justification. And for months, the court has imposed a set of restrictions that have made it impossible for the public to understand what investigators have found and why O'Donnell was charged in the first place. Henry Boyce has moved to be relieved as prosecuting attorney according to a 3-sentence order signed Wednesday by the new judge, John Fogelman. The motion for withdrawal is hereby granted. Boyce's assistant said the prosecutor had no comment. Court officials said Boyce's request to the judge was verbal, so there's no written record available. Lee Short, an attorney for O'Donnell, told ABC News, quote, "The rules of professional conduct dictate when he must recuse. I trust that Mr. Boyce was following those guidelines when he made his decision. The change in prosecuting attorney is not going to alter the defense," end quote. Well, I'm not an attorney, Lee Short, Mr. Short, but I would be filing a motion for dismissal at this point. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what her attorneys are doing necessarily. I'm just saying this is so odd. They have not released a motive. They haven't said anything. It has been 6 months. And the prosecutor, as far as I know, prosecutors are the ones that decide, how you're going to charge, what you're going to charge with. It's capital murder, so the death penalty's at stake. So Rebecca O'Donnell has been sitting in jail, in the Jackson County Jail, for 6 months, and the prosecutor all of a sudden just says, meh, I don't need to be on this case anymore. So either So this opens everything up for even more speculation because this case has just done nothing because the government won't be transparent. The lack of confidence in the public, folks, I live in Northeast Arkansas, and I, go places, and people know that I do a talk radio show. You want to know what people ask me when I go around places, when I have to just travel around on day-to-day business? You know what they ask me? They ask me about this case. And virtually no one trusts the process at this point. I'm just going to be clear. I'm going to be very real. No one believes or trusts in the process. That is very dangerous. Because what we want here is justice. Colin Smith, ABC News goes on, talks about how Linda was found. O'Donnell has been locked up in the Jackson County Jail since she was arrested. Even though she has been a model prisoner, officials said she was placed under the strictest detention protocols after the state police contacted the jailers. The Arkansas State Police interfered in how the prisoner, Rebecca O'Donnell, was being held, and then ABC News made a report about it, and some of the restrictions were lifted, but I understand she is still isolated. This report from ABC News goes on. A day after ABC News reported on the strange jailhouse restrictions, Jackson County Sheriff David Lucas lifted them, meaning she couldn't talk to anybody but her lawyers, and she was in complete isolation. So she's still in isolation, but she can at least talk to her family, friends, people other than her attorneys. O'Donnell's fiance, Tim Logan, said, quote, Becky is still being isolated and has no contact visitation with family. No contact visitation. We, the family, still maintain Becky's innocence and cannot fathom the confusion and seeming incompetence in the handling of this case. Please pray for Becky, end quote. With all of the personal changes, ABC News reporter writes, it is unclear how O'Donnell's case will proceed. Prior to the moves of the last 2 weeks, O'Donnell's next court appearance had been scheduled for February 28th of next year, and the trial was tentatively scheduled for October of 2020. Again, this is Josh Margolin and Kate Holland reporting this. It's on ABC News website right now, and this is just odd. It's leading to more confusion. It's leading to more questioning. And listen, I know what people who still trust, the process or have faith in the process, they're going to say, well, they're being so secretive because they don't know, maybe there's somebody else that was involved in the murder. I understand that. I get that is one explanation here. However, how long does an explanation like that carry water? How long is that going to be the answer that satisfies the public that want to know who killed our friend Linda? It's just odd that the prosecutor would. A couple things come to mind. And again, the speculation here is something I have tried to avoid, and it's something that I don't want to do. But a couple things come to mind as to why Henry Boyce would all of a sudden say, I don't want to do this case anymore. Number one, he doesn't believe he's going to get a conviction. Something, maybe, there's no chance. Or that's one possibility. Or number two, maybe there has been something that has transpired that where he knows, look, if this ever comes out, then everything we do from this point forward is going to be tainted. Fruit of a poison tree type situation, and whole case will be thrown out. I don't know. You tell me. What do you guys? I know what y'all. Actually, I don't need to ask that, especially for our online audience, because I know what you guys think. Oh my goodness, this is a mess. I will tell you this. This Josh Margolin, the guy from ABC News covering this story, from what I can tell, I don't think he's going to stop investigating this. And this whole the initial story that was dropped the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, it all happened because they called the Arkansas State Police, and they said, we're hearing from the Jackson County Jail that the Arkansas State Police is dictating how Becky is supposed to be treated here, even though she's been a model inmate. Arkansas State Police denies that we have no jurisdiction. Then the Arkansas State Police called ABC News back and said, yeah, so about that, we did tell the Jackson County Jail that they had to isolate her and cut her off from all family and communication. This case is odd, to say the least. Telephone number is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Okay, you guys ready for the announcement? You guys ready for the big announcement that we've been talking about? So if you've been on the Facebook page, then you know that there are big changes coming to Conduit and everything that we're going to do. And I'm really excited about this, and I'm excited for a lot of reasons. But basically, up until this point, the only thing I've been telling you is that big changes are coming, and that these changes are coming because we are wanting to be more efficient in how we give you the news. And I think over the last month, for sure, the news that you don't get anywhere else. Okay? And you know that at this point. I mean, that's clear. The record is clear. So, what I can tell you, big changes. Here are a few bullet points. Okay? We're going to be having not only this program continuing, but we're going to have new programs. That's right. New digital shows. All right? And by doing this, it means that we have to move away from radio. So we have to move away from radio. And by doing this, and you have to trust me on this, we have found a way to improve access and to create formats that are going to reach greater and newer audiences. And that is what I'm excited about. New digital shows, new podcasts, new website, of course. Same great news that you're not getting anywhere else. So, that's what's happening. We're going to kick it off the first of the year. And so what that means is, if you are not connected to us digitally and you only listen on the radio, then you're going to need to go to conduitnews.com. You're going to need to sign up for the newsletter. You're going to need to go to the YouTube channel, Conduit News. You're going to need to subscribe to it. It's very easy. Folks, if you have a Gmail account and you log on to YouTube, it's the same thing because Google and YouTube own each other. So you don't have to create an account if you already got a Gmail account. You just use your Gmail account. What? What are you doing in there? Anyway, so really excited about this big announcement, and we'll have more on this as the weeks come. But we're probably going to be talking about it daily. I will tell you this though. What's interesting here is hang on. Let me scroll back to a story that I saw in the paper this morning. So the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, for example, they are now going to be experimenting with ending the circulation of the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette in Harrison, except for Sundays. Quote, this is a test and has no effect on subscribers in other parts of Northwest Arkansas. So I guess what I say is a lot of people, I mean, you've seen that the media is moving away from print, and they're all going digital. And it's the same thing. I mean, we've been Conduit News. Yeah, and so you can argue radio's the print version of yeah, exactly, just exactly where I'm going. And so you can see this happening, and all I can tell you is that we have a way to dramatically increase what we're doing now, and we're going to do it because if anything the last couple of weeks has shown us anything, okay, not only do we have to redouble our efforts, but we have to be smarter and faster than the mainstream media. And the fact that we have been covering a bombshell story and it gets very little attention, it just is everything that you need to know. It just tells you everything you need to know about we've got the facts on our side. We've just got to get it in front of more eyeballs. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break now, and we're going to be back here in just a moment. So don't go anywhere. It is Johnny Cash Friday. We have State Representative Dan Sullivan coming up at 7:33. Back in just a moment.
Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
And our national interests demand. We will not be intimidated, and we will not stand down.
And we'll be calling on multiple prospects in China, as well as continuing our relationship with Sun Paper in Shandong Province.
In recent years, China has taken a sharp U-turn toward control and oppression of its own people. Today, China has built an unparalleled surveillance state, and it's growing more expansive and intrusive, often with the help of U.S. technology. And when it comes to religious freedom, a new wave of persecution is crashing down on Chinese Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims. Last month, Beijing shut down one of China's largest underground churches. Across the country, authorities are tearing down crosses, burning Bibles, and imprisoning believers. And Beijing has now reached a deal with the Vatican that gives the avowedly atheist Communist Party a direct role in appointing Catholic bishops. For China's Christians, these are desperate times.
So, do you like him as a candidate?
I think he's brought a lot to the table. It's not my message. You know, I worry about the party in terms of expanding our base and what the message does to our recruitment of Hispanics, outreach to minorities. And so you've got to worry about the fall election and whether this is a message that's going to carry in Michigan, Ohio, and Florida, and those states that we need to carry.
The American people deserve to know. In response to the strong stand that President Trump has taken, Beijing is pursuing a comprehensive and coordinated campaign to undermine support for the president, our agenda, and our nation's most cherished ideals.
I think you've got to listen to what he says and how he conducts himself. And I don't know that he would be that different from what he is now in negotiating with Vladimir Putin. So,
you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's a good thing. You know, we need people who, in the presidency, that understand how the world works, understands that there's a time for bluster and there's a time for reason.
The Chinese Communist Party is rewarding or coercing American businesses, movie studios, universities, think tanks, scholars, journalists, and local, state, and federal officials.
And then, Chairman, you'll look out in the audience and you'll see multiple members of the governor's cabinet. We're also here to support you. You'll see multiple members of the state legislative assembly. They're here to support you, and specifically Senator Caldwell, Senator Ingram, Representative Murdoch, Representative Hollowell. These are your senators and your representatives now. You call on them and they're going to help you, guarantee it. And Senator English, I saw you out there too. Thank you for being here as well.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government approach, using political, economic, and military tools as well as propaganda to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States.
Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
And our next.
I need there's my microphone. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll be talking to State Representative Dan Sullivan here in just a moment. Speaking of that, big article in the Jonesboro Sun today about fundraising of this primary race between Senator John Cooper and State Representative Dan Sullivan. Yesterday in the Jonesboro Sun, they went around and they decided to start talking about impeachment. What do you think about impeachment? What do you think about impeachment? Well, I think this. So they asked some state officials. They asked, what do you think about impeachment? State Representative Dan Sullivan, who's running for the Senate seat held by John Cooper, said he has not heard from any constituents who are in favor of impeachment. Quote, I think there's no firsthand evidence that reaches the threshold for impeachment of high crimes and misdemeanors, Dan Sullivan said. By the way, we're going to be talking to him in just a minute. And then Senator John Cooper, who's running for re-election, refused to comment on the issue except to state that he did not think the impeachment inquiry would impact the 2020 presidential campaign. Quote, I'm in a campaign and I don't want to comment on national politics. I'm in a campaign and I don't want to comment on national politics. That's what John Cooper said when asked what he thinks about the impeachment of Donald Trump. Ride the fence much? Actually, that's not even riding the fence. That's John Cooper not supporting President Donald Trump. I'll tell you that much right now. Oh, man. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Let's go to this tweet by a lady by the name of Ashley St. Clair. Somebody played a prank. Somebody played a prank at Walmart reminiscent of My Jock Strap. Has anybody seen my first name, My Jock? Last name, Strap. My Jock Strap. Has anybody seen My Jock Strap? Except this is way better. Listen to this.
Good afternoon, Walmart customers. If I may have your attention, please. Will Mr. Clinton Kildepstein meet your party at the grocery entrance? Mr. Clinton Kildepstein, please go to the grocery entrance to meet with your party. Thank you.
Thank you.
And she goes on to say, now you let me know if he doesn't show up and I'll do it again. Bless her heart. You feel so bad for her. She's being such a good employee. Hey, I'm missing my friend. I don't know where he is. I need you to page him, please. We're waiting on him. We need to page him. Okay, what's his name? His last name is Kildepstein. 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 First name is Clinton. Okay, Clinton Kildepstein. All right, I got it. It goes across the whole store. Mr. Clinton Kildepstein. We'll be right back with State Representative Dan Sullivan. Happy Friday to you.
Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
As we speak, Beijing is employing a whole-of-government approach, using political, economic, and military tools as well as propaganda to advance its influence and benefit its interests in the United States.
And I have wanted to welcome back to Arkansas Chairman Chu. Please give Chairman Chu a round of applause.
China is also applying this power in more proactive ways than ever before to exert influence and interfere in the domestic policy and politics of this country.
Chairman Chu, I got to know as he is the CEO and chairman of Shandong Ruyi Technology Group out of Shandong Province.
Over the past 17 years, China's GDP has grown 9-fold. It's become the second largest economy in the world. Much of this success was driven by American investment in China. And the Chinese Communist Party has also used an arsenal of policies inconsistent with free and fair trade, including tariffs, quotas, currency manipulation, forced technology transfer, intellectual property theft, and industrial subsidies that are handed out like candy to foreign investment.
We've been to Shandong Province a number of times since I've been governor. We've called on people, and Chairman Chu gave us the opportunity to meet with him at Ruyi, at their technology group there in Shandong, and saw his incredible facility. We asked him to visit Arkansas. He did. So Chairman Chu, we're delighted to have you here. I'm excited about signing this agreement with you, and I welcome you to Arkansas.
These policies have built Beijing's manufacturing base at the expense of its competitors, especially the United States of America.
And I wanted to recognize Chairman Lee to my right, who is the founder
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. This is Johnny Cash Friday. We're kind of winding the week down, and we got State Representative Dan Sullivan with us. Here he is. Dan, how are you?
Good morning, Paul. I tell you what, Friday, I can't believe it's already here.
It is. It is. And, this weekend is one of the few weekends people have left if they're going to buy people Christmas presents. So
Yeah, well, except for some of us guys who wait until like the 23rd
the
or
very
24th.
last minute. Well, and you're running a campaign as well, so I'm sure you got a lot going on. How's the campaign going?
You're going great. I mean, Paul, one of the things I think a lot of your listeners have probably seen some of the videos that I do. And, did a video yesterday, a short one about Arkansas and getting rid of feral hogs. So I'm down in Little Rock. I'm up here. Today we'll be going to St. Bernard's Village with the Veteran Support Group as they visit with our veterans and have a little Christmas gift for them. I've got a meeting later on with a young constituent that I met, African-American constituent who I met at the Chamber of Commerce dinner the other night. Just going to meet with him and sit down and have coffee and talk. I'm really interested in what other people think. I want to hear what you think and hear what's important to you, and then talk to them about conservative ideas. After that, I've got another meeting with some folks in the afternoon over at Black Iron Shooting Range.
All right.
We're going to go over there with Aaron, and then tonight we'll be at the Walnut Street Christmas party. And all the while, waiting for a call from a business owner that is getting kind of hassled by DHS over some regs. And when they call me, I'm going to try to run out there and meet with DHS and meet with our constituent in the business to try to resolve that. And that happens about every day.
Yeah, I know.
But I really enjoy it. It's helping people. This is why you run. Many people think running for office means you just drive the Little Rock and vote on things. A big part of it is helping constituents who have problems.
Yeah.
It's meeting with them and listening to them and finding out what's important to them. As a matter of fact, I think that's one of the big differences between John Cooper and myself, that I'm out there listening to people, hearing what they have to say versus me sitting down telling you what you think.
Yeah.
One of us is elected and represents the people to Little Rock. Another one is elected and represents Little Rock back to the people.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell them what to do.
That's exactly
Big
what's
difference.
gone on. That's exactly what's gone on, and you can definitely tell that. And Senator Cooper is running a campaign on the issues that are important to Republicans, but there's one issue. There's one problem with that. He didn't vote the way he's claiming and what he supports. We talked about this the other day. We've got this video here, You Matter to Me, and he talks about how gun rights matter to me, lower taxes matter to me, and yet he voted against, the Stand Your Ground bill, for one.
Yeah, voted against it, was the only Republican voting against it, and killed the bill that impacted all Arkansans. So when you run an ad like that and say, well, I'm for gun rights, well, tell us what it is you're for, because you certainly didn't stand strong. And again, what the people the local people elected John to go down there and represent them in Little Rock and tell Little Rock what they want. Instead, John's going to come back and tell the people what he wants, and that was not gun control. The same thing with taxes.
Right.
The people elected John, and John campaigned hard, collected a lot of money, and campaigned hard on for people. When the people say, John, go to tell Little Rock that we don't want our taxes raised. We want lower taxes, smaller government. And John, of course, votes the other way. And now he's out holding town halls telling people, I got to tell you why you're wrong and why I went down there and changed my mind.
Yeah, no, you're right. He has these town halls. I had one photo, though, where nobody showed up to it, which I thought was interesting.
Well, one did.
One did?
Yes.
Some of the comments on this post where he says he's for lower taxes when he voted for all the tax increases. This guy, somebody says he will say anything to get elected. This guy's the biggest right on the Republican Party. Anyway, and that's still up there. I would have assumed he would have deleted those by now, but we covered that yesterday. I want to ask you about your question. The Jonesboro Sun asked you yesterday about President Trump and impeachment, and you said what?
Yeah, they actually didn't print it all because I'm there's no evidence, no credible firsthand evidence that raises to the level of impeachment for crimes and misdemeanors. This is a waste of time. It's a waste of taxpayer money. And Congress should be getting back to the business of the people. You know, when John says, you know, I refuse to comment, I have a campaign to run.
Yeah, in that same article, he didn't comment.
Yeah, well, he refused to comment. He just didn't not have a comment.
Yeah.
He refused, the paper says. And this affects Arkansans. You know, we have a huge trade deal on the table that affects our farmers and all Arkansans. And so when any of us are afraid to stand up or unwilling to stand up for our president and our party and Arkansans, you know, we're not being a leader, and people elected us to be leaders. So when people ask me how I voted on the recent tax increase in Jonesboro with Team Jonesboro, I opposed it. And I had a lot of questions and talk with people, but I'm very willing to share with people what I think. That's what people expect of a leader. That's what people expect of one who calls himself a conservative, that we will step up and we'll answer those type of questions. You know, it's very easy for our legislator when the tough questions come up, whether it's in Little Rock or here, for us to find an answer or sit on the sideline and put our finger up in the air and see which way the wind's blowing.
Yep.
And then you just say, well, you know, whatever it is that is expedient that makes you look good and keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah.
You know, again, I think that's one of the major differences between John and myself. When people ask me a question, I'm going to answer honestly. And if we disagree, then let's sit down and talk about it. And let's see, maybe you can inform me.
You know, I just got to say, that's true. I mean, at the one town hall that we have audio of, he wouldn't take certain questions.
Right.
He said, well, I'm not going to answer that question. I'll only answer questions, and it's because he did answer the one question on, you know, voting against the bill that would have allowed students to study the Bible in school as an elective, only as an elective. He did explain about why.
Well,
he
you know,
voted.
in the 2017 session, we had the bill to allow "In God We Trust." John sat on the sideline on that, which, as you know, is a no vote. When you vote present or you don't vote, that's a no. So John, instead of taking a strong position and saying, look, I oppose this, or I don't like it, or I have questions about it, he just sat on the sideline. This is a big deal. Putting "In God We Trust" back in our schools, back in our colleges, is a big deal. And John sat on the sideline there, and just like in this instance where he refused to comment on the president, John refused to vote on "In God We Trust."
This is what the Jonesboro Sun said when they asked Senator Cooper about what he thinks about impeachment, which is, I think, something that local politicians would want to tell their constituents.
Well, conservative,
yeah,
Republicans.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. State Senator John Cooper, who's running for re-election, refused to comment on the issue except to state that he did not think the impeachment inquiry would have an impact on the 2020 presidential campaign. Quote, I'm in a campaign, and I don't want to comment on national politics. So back when John Cooper claimed to be a conservative and also would come on this show, I would always ask about national issues for every local candidate that came here. We would talk local, but then I'd be like, I think it's important to know, I said this phrase to everybody, I think it's important for the audience to know how our local politicians feel about national issues.
Yeah.
And he would always expound on it, and it always pretty much fell in line with what you would assume a Republican would
Yeah,
think.
matter of fact, on the healthcare issue, which was a national issue, he was very willing to say, I oppose Obamacare.
Yeah.
And
he changed his
he was
mind
willing
on
to
that
comment on the national scene then, and that was an election because I was running against him.
Yes.
And he was very willing to say, I will oppose Obamacare in Arkansas. And all of a sudden now he has changed his mind. Again, politicians, if they have a chance, will take the path of least resistance. And if the people don't stand up and the people don't call them into account, then many politicians will continue down that same path. And it's not representing the people to Little Rock, it's representing Little Rock back to the people.
We're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan. Got this poll recently. It's been in the news. Governor Asa Hutchinson been out there talking about an internal survey. According to the governor's internal survey or poll, 62% of the 800 Arkansans polled support or lean towards supporting a 0.5% sales tax for highways and roads. The governor's using this to say the people support, voting for issue 1 coming up in 2020. What do you think about this whole thing we've got to look forward to?
First of all, I don't support the half-cent sales tax, and primarily because when it was passed in 2012, the Arkansas legislature, we gave our word. In 2022, in 10 years, it ends. Kind of like, what was the health care statement someone made?
If you like your health care plan.
If you like your health care, you can keep it.
Right.
Or this, we're getting rid of these things. The legislature gave our promise, and if there's one thing the people of Arkansas are concerned about, it's people who keep their word. People, when I tell you this is what I'm going to do, that's what we do. And I'm really committed, even though I wasn't there in 2012, that's what we as a legislature promised. We should have allowed that tax to expire. Now, if we want to pass a new tax, have at it. So the fact that we're promoting this as continuing a tax is a partial truth. The real truth is we gave our word that tax would end. I'm going to keep the word of the Arkansas legislature. That's what Arkansans expect. Secondly, it would have taken a higher threshold than to pass a new tax, which is why we're doing it. The fact that people,
Ooh, that's an esoteric point, but for people that don't understand, they'd have to get 3/4, I believe, to change the sales tax rate. Yeah, you have to get 75% instead of a simple majority.
Yeah, changes the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what our Constitution calls for.
Right.
And what the people expect us to do is not bypass or find ways around, but to do what we promise we're going to do. Paul, in my election with John, I think integrity and keeping our word is the most important thing what voters look for in us, is that we're going to be who we say we are. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. And in 2012, we said it would end. Secondly, a poll, from what I've read about this, the tax, it's either we pass the tax or our roads are terrible. It's a binary choice. That's just not true. Same thing we were presented with in the local sales tax. You either pass the tax or things are going to collapse. It's just not true. There are other ways of getting our money and other ways of shifting the tax burden. Julie Mayberry's bill was out there. There are lots of options. So I wasn't polled, so I don't know what the poll questions are. But if it were polled that you have two choices, we either pass the tax or your roads will deteriorate, that's just not true. The second part is we cannot bind a legislature in the future. So we could come back, the legislature could come back, if this tax passes, the legislature can come back and just pass more taxes for roads. There's a lot of options out there, because this doesn't take effect until 2022, I think.
Yep.
So there are multiple opportunities for the legislature to come back in regular sessions, in fiscal sessions, and make the changes that we need. Of course, I supported Julie Mayberry's bill, which would have shifted our tax to more general revenue. I think the lieutenant...
There wouldn't have been a tax increase.
Right.
We would have funded roads with her plan without a tax increase.
Yeah, and I think the lieutenant governor, I think Tim Griffin, has come out several times and said it's not a binary choice, that there are other options.
Yes.
And often the voters are not told what those options are. They're giving you pass the tax, or golly, our roads are going to fall apart.
They give you a choice architecture,
Yes.
and they don't want you to know anything else. Oh, by the way, I think I thought of the reason why they said that the tax would sunset in 2022 all the way back in 2012. If you'll remember, in 2012, the Mayan calendar said that we weren't even going to be here. So they're like, well, we're not going to even make it to 2022. It doesn't matter. Can I get your comment on May 28th of this year, the Craighead County Republican Committee passed a resolution affirming the Republican Party of Arkansas platform.
Right.
Your opponent, John Cooper, said that he opposed the resolution that did pass with two-thirds
majority.
But he compared it to the Soviet Empire. He said that this is like a political party in the Soviet Empire
Yeah, of course, if you read
thought.
his comments, he says that there's some kind of an oath there, or he references our founding principles and such, that we're not to take oaths, we're not to demand loyalty. That's not what the document said.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple. The document just said, here's our platform. I forget the exact word.
We affirm it, and we want to encourage the senators
Right.
and state representatives to vote the platform.
Yeah. So it was no oath. It was no. You're not signing a document, a pledge of any kind, and it says in the document it's non-binding.
Yeah.
Because all of us take votes that do not adhere, maybe in a very strict sense, to what the platform says. We all do that. We all have things we vote about. Maybe it's even gun legislation.
Well, no one's perfect.
Yeah. Well, and there are nuances in bills
right.
too.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you can say that just was not a good bill, but one ought to be able to sit down and talk to people. When John tried to close the Lake City courthouse, he ran that bill through. He failed. He didn't call the mayors. He didn't go over to Lake City and talk to the people.
Really?
Yeah, he just ran the bill. As a matter of fact, I wanted to testify. And as I heard he was running the bill in committee, I ran down there as the vote was over and they were coming out. And, I think John is still, to my knowledge, not committed to what he will do with the Lake City courthouse. I know that there are some who still want to close that down. And I think the voters in Lake City need to really consider that when they go to the polls, because John never reached out to them.
Yeah.
Ran it through quietly. When it came to the House, I called the mayors. I called the people on both sides.
Yeah.
So we had testimony in the House for and against. John took a different path. John only snuck it through when nobody was looking and ran it through the Senate. And again, that's just the difference in the way we approach problem solving. The people elect us to problem solve.
Well, and let's be clear, the reason I think John did that was because there were people in Jonesboro who wanted the courthouse closed in Lake City, and so John, very much like he kind of represents Little Rock to us instead of representing us to Little Rock. He was kind of doing the same thing, but in a smaller scale.
I get it, but process is important.
Oh, I agree. Be transparent about it. If it's a good idea, debate it.
Well, just like John's voted for. I think there were six Democrat senators who had more conservative voting records than John. Well, just embrace it. Say, look, this is who I am. I'm a tax person. I like raising your taxes. I mentioned just a second ago that people elect us to solve problems. Well, when your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, and you're just going to whack it. And John's only solution to every problem is raise taxes. That's what it appears. And there are other solutions, as we talked about a while ago. There are other ways to go about problem solving than just raising people's taxes. That's why they elect us.
We are way over. We're out of time. Well, this has been a great conversation.
Enjoyed it. Thank you, Paul.
I really appreciate it. State Representative Dan Sullivan, good luck in all your campaign
Thank
stops.
you.
All right. Where can people go if they want to help you
Sullivan for Arkansas.
Okay, is that number
website?
4? Or?
No, that's a FOR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sullivan for Arkansas.
And we could use their help, by the way.
SullivanforArkansas.com, right?
Yes.
Okay, SullivanforArkansas.com. Folks, we got to go. Back in a moment.
Folks, as a taxpayer or business owner, I know the government rarely gives the people a break. Big government politicians seem to always want more money from us, taxpayers. So if you want to support the work we're doing right here at Conduit News, bringing you the truth, then why not consider giving less money to the government that never stops overspending and overtaxing us by giving a tax-deductible donation to Conduit for Commerce, the premier organization in Arkansas that never stops promoting small business and limited government. Just go to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Support Our Cause. From there, you can decide if you want to donate monthly or one time. Give the government that's using your tax dollars to grow and grow less, and give the people fighting for your values more. Conduitforcommerce.org.
Of Sun Paper of Shandong Province in China. I also want to recognize Secretary Ma of Shandong Province.
As President Trump said just this week, in his words, We rebuilt China over the last 25 years.
Last November, as you know, I traveled to Shandong province. I met with Chairman Lee. I toured Sun Paper Company along with Mike Preston. While in China, we signed a letter of intent on behalf of the state of Arkansas with Sun Paper, indicating that Sun Paper wanted to put a major bioproducts mill in South Arkansas,
The Communist Party has set its sights on controlling 90% of the world's most advanced industries, including robotics, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. To win the commanding heights of the 21st century economy, Beijing has directed its bureaucrats and businesses to obtain American intellectual property, the foundation of our economic leadership, by any means necessary.
Chairman Lee and I met yesterday. Chairman Lee indicated to me that Sun Paper has selected Arkadelphia in Clark County as the location of a $1 billion bioproducts mill.
Beijing now requires many American businesses to hand over their trade secrets as the cost of doing business in China. It also coordinates and sponsors the acquisition of American firms.
We just had I went way over that. I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea what time it was. So yeah, and Joe didn't either because we were just too busy listening. Because this is a big deal. Hang on, let me see something for a second, because I can't even tell. I don't even know what's going on right now. There we go. Sorry, I got to get my headphones in. Well, the primaries are a big deal, right? The Republican Party pretty much dominates Arkansas. Again, I warned you yesterday, do not take that for granted, but Republican Party dominates Arkansas, and just like the Democrat Party used to. And so back when the Democrat Party dominated Arkansas, generally elections didn't matter as much. Democrat primaries did. That is where we are now. So remember, the Republican primary is very much like a general election now, because the community generally agrees, the people generally agrees with lower taxes to produce economic growth, right? The right to life. They generally agree with things like the right to keep and bear arms. Do we have a meme of the day? All right, let's get to the meme of the day before we end this 10-hour broadcasting week. I think this one's... Oh, this is the one we went with? Oh, man, I guess we went with this one because I made... You heard me make the comments about Nancy Pelosi's eyebrows last hour, and so that's why we went with this one. Courtesy of 4_touchdowns, this guy again on Instagram. When you drink Dayquil and NyQuil at the same time, photo of Nancy Pelosi with one eye open and one eye closed. Yeah. She needs to go to the hospital, I feel like. We'll post it up at Conduit News on the Twitter page, at Conduit News. Folks, we'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend.